Cup of Joe with Grampa Dez. Hey, Ricky, how you doing?
I'm good, Grampa Dez. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So this is the
Good.
first time we're meeting. We've conversed just
Yes.
a little bit on
Yeah.
social media. So the first question I have for you, and we're going to talk about your movie "Hope for the Holidays," which you can see
Okay.
on the scroller there. So
Yeah.
how exactly did you meet my Aunt Darlene, who was my
Oh
guest
my
last week?
gosh. Yeah. So once upon a time when blogs were a thing back in 1940, I had a blog and she was a friend of a friend, and I think that friend Marla said,
Oh
"Hey,
yeah.
my friend Ricky, yeah, my friend Ricky has a blog. You should check it out. Sometimes he's funny. Sometimes he talks about scriptures or whatever." And Marla hopped on my blog, and then we became Facebook friends, and the rest is history. She's an amazing woman, and love what she's doing. And she's the one that sunk you and I up. Synced. How do you say
Yeah.
that? Synced. Put you and I together. So that was awesome of her as well.
Yeah, that was that was cool, and then you
Yeah.
know you sent me the screener for the movie, which
Yeah.
I don't know, I felt like intimidated, but it was cool,
Oh,
and I wanted to watch it, so I wasn't putting it off, but I wanted to make sure it was fresh in my mind, so I
yeah.
watched it last night,
Awesome.
and yeah, so
On your non-holiday in Canada, right? Like there's nothing going on.
correct,
Yeah,
but
just
I watched it
Thursday
at
night.
I watched it like midnight because
Oh,
I'm
nice,
a night
nice.
owl. I'm a night
There you
owl.
go.
But
Good.
I didn't fall asleep. I wasn't tired. I was worried.
Oh,
Like I thought, oh man, if it's boring, I might have to finish it in the
yeah,
morning. But
yeah.
no, like I was
Oh,
glued. I was glued. So I have a couple questions,
yeah.
and we'll get into like how people can watch a movie, where they can see it, and everything like
Sure.
that. So, and I don't want to give anything away because I strongly recommend this movie for anyone. It's family
Thank you.
friendly, obviously. So the first thing, and I gotta say, okay, so the main star obviously is Doug Hutchison, who plays now does he have the same name as his dad? I'm really bad with names. I'm horrible with remembering names.
So
But
Doug plays the guard. He's
oh,
the
Doug's the guard. Okay, so
Babbitt.
Doug's
He's
the
Babbitt. You mean George Stoltz?
yeah.
George
So
Stoltz. I'm not sure. I know his brother Jeff. They've acted in things together. I'm
no,
not sure about his dad
I
though.
meant in your movie. So
Oh,
in your movie,
yes,
like
Daniel and Danny. Yes, correct.
Daniel and
Yes,
Danny. Okay, so I wasn't sure if I'd mix that up. So
yes.
okay,
Nope, you
so
got
that
it.
leads into my first question
Yeah.
because you used flashbacks as a
Yes.
storytelling device, which I love.
Yeah. Okay.
And so at first I was having a hard time like kind of figuring out, okay, what's when they talk to Danny, is like,
Yeah.
is this Danny the guy, that we just saw, opening
At the
scene of the movie?
table.
He's yeah. And then hey, that's 25 cents in the jar. Um
Sorry.
that's okay.
I
But
think you know
then
what I think I muted it. I think it's
okay,
gonna go off again in a minute. Let me go
don't worry
turn that
about it.
alarm off so that there we go. Okay, we're good. So sorry about
It's
that.
okay because I just hadn't done mine either. Okay, so then the other question I had was, so when later on when we're introduced to the guard, um,
Yes.
I thought that was another flashback. I didn't
Oh,
realize that it was actually in the present time,
yeah.
and I don't
Yeah.
know if that is that by design. Like, were you trying to trick people or?
No, we specifically shot the flashback scenes with a very different kind of lens, and we also made it a little Gaussian blur so that it
Yeah.
had like a. But yeah, we weren't trying to trick the audience on
Okay.
any of the current Danny stuff. No.
I see, because I thought that there was the blurriness in that scene, so maybe that was just me.
So there were two flashback scenes. There was the one
Yeah,
at the table. Oh no, there's three.
yeah,
One at
the
the
one with Mouse as a kid
Yes,
playing the Nintendo,
and
which
that's
I love.
four. I'm
Nice,
bad at my own movie. Yeah, there's four flashback scenes.
nice attention to detail. So I'm doing the math. How old is this guy supposed to be? And then when I Googled him, it's a perfect age,
Yeah,
because it would have been about 1985 when you're playing
Yep.
the Nintendo. That's like 35 years ago.
That's it. You got
Yeah,
it. You got it.
yeah. So that was perfect. But yeah, so no, because when they introduced the guard, so I thought, well, who? At first, I thought it was Danny's mom as a little girl. But then I'm like, no, there's too much stuff going on. And then I realized, then he goes to the war, he goes to work, and
Yep.
that's when we're introduced to him. So
Yeah.
I really like that. And then Robert Lasorda. Now
Yes.
I gotta say, or Lasorda.
Lasorda, yeah.
So this is a guy. If you're watching this, you don't know the name, but you know this guy. You've
Yes.
seen him in a million TV shows. He always plays the bad guy.
Yep.
Because he's typecast. I don't know
Yeah.
if you knew this, but he was on NYPD Blue 4 different times as 4 different characters.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because he's like the perfect bad guy.
He
So he
is.
was just like the criminal of the week. Every couple of years, they just brought him in as a new character.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So when you see him here, it's like, okay, it's it's the same guy that I've seen in 8 million TV shows, and he's going to be playing the same guy. And he stole the movie. Like, he was awesome. Like, I was blown away by his performance.
Yes. Robert is a phenomenal human being, first of all.
Okay.
But his acting, so that's the thing. Like, when you see Robert, you see that. Look, I love Robert. Robert loves me. He wouldn't have a problem me saying this. But you see the tattoos, you see all the presentation of Robert, and you're immediately thinking, this guy's going to play the heavy. And then when you get into the movie, you know, I'm not spoiling it, but the first scene you see him in, we kind of trick you a little bit.
Yeah.
But then we get into it, and the guy has chops. I mean, in one of his scenes in the cell, he is full on crying, reciting this speech about his father. And this, I got to tell you, this is like one of the DVD extra things you would know if there was a DVD anymore. But so first day of the shoot, we do that scene in the cell where Robert has to cry. It's day one. First day, I'm a brand new director, Robert Lasorda. Right off the bat, we're getting heavy. And we do the scene, it's great. And then the very next day, my DP, my director of photography, the guy at the camera and all the gear comes to me and says, Ricky, I've got the worst news in the world. And I'm thinking, okay, what, you know, we're running behind or something. He's like, everything I shot yesterday in that jail cell is unusable. I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, come here and look at it. And he showed it, and it was digital noise, like not the lens, nothing, but the red camera had digital noise all over the footage. He's like, it's unsalvageable. So I went to Robert, and Robert was, you know, deservedly upset about that. He was not thrilled about it. So he's like, I'm not doing it again. I did it yesterday. I gave it my all. I had prepared weeks. I'm not doing it. I'm like, Robert, this movie doesn't work unless we get this scene. And so this is what we did. He said, there's a song that when I was a kid, I listened to kind of zone out from my chaos around me. He goes, I'm going to put a Bluetooth little ear thing in my ear. He's like, I want you to stand off screen. And then when I start talking, pick a time and just hit play on the iPod. It'll play in my ear. And that's what I did. And that scene was even better than the day before. Wow. So we were blessed to have that happen. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, he, like you said, he was just like the depths of emotions that he had. So that very first scene when you're introduced to him and you said you tricked the viewer. So he starts he's like, you know, you're watching and you're thinking he's going crazy. And like, so was he talking in tongues? Or
no, I don't think he was talking in tongues. I think he was just genuinely upset. And we can't cuss in that movie, so I think he was just inventing cuss words.
Yeah. No, and that's what I wasn't sure. So I thought maybe, you know, but then immediately he like kind of flips a switch, and then I think he sensed that Danny in the cell next to him was, you know, a fellow, you know, believer, and so they strike up a friendship, and so that was like an unexpected thing. And then Doug Hutchison, who the warden, and if you where you've seen him before, you'd recognize him, and probably the Green Mile would be where people would remember him from.
The opposite character in the Green Mile.
Yes, and you catch that right away. Like, I mean, you know, like he doesn't even need to say a word. It's just his looks that are giving that away. But there's one scene, and it's near the end of the movie, and it's, you know, he's crying, and like it was so real, and it brought me to tears watching it. And you know, that's an ultimate compliment, because I sometimes cry with laughter. I don't often cry from emotion, and that one got me in the feels.
Good. So, I'm glad to hear that. You know, for me that was my first film. I had Sally Kirkland, who's nominated for an Oscar, won a Golden Globe, Doug Hutchison, Robert Lasorda, George Stoltz, who's a great actor in his own right, Todd Bridges, who was on Different Strokes, Jen Godson, who's in almost every faith-based film out there, Gigi Orsillo, who played the nurse, who unfortunately some of her scenes got cut, but she had a really strong role in the film. And then, you know, Alex Cubis and Laura Long, who played Scott and Cassie. I had such an incredible, and there's others in there as well. I had such an incredible cast for my first film, and to be able to direct Oscar winners and nominees and stuff like that was incredible. But you know, there's just a big difference. I live in Sacramento. There's a big difference from doing Sacramento movies for low budget, and then you get on a set with people who this is their livelihood, and you're like watching like Mozart. You know, it's like it's incredible. It's like being at one of his concerts and just watching these people emote and turn on the crying and then turn them off. It was unreal. It was so cool.
That I can't even imagine. And so when I watched the movie, I deliberately did not look up anything about the movie. I did
Okay.
afterwards, but I watched the credits and I didn't know who was
Okay.
in the movie. I'd asked Darlene and she didn't really know. She says, you might recognize a couple of people. And so I read the names, and then the only names I recognized were Sally Kirkland and Todd Bridges.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what kind of movie am I getting into with Sally Kirkland and Todd Bridges as the main
Right.
characters? And obviously, you know, like Todd Bridges, he's got an important role, but it's not a huge role.
Right.
And but it is an important role. And Sally Kirkland, again, same thing. She's not in the movie a lot, but her scenes are critical. And she knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, she did.
And but the crux of the movie, like I said, is carried by, you know, Doug, Robert, and Gary?
George
Stoltz. Yeah.
Yes.
So and him, like so he's the main character, but he's almost like a secondary part of most of the scenes he's in, I would think.
No,
but the movie's about him.
Yeah.
So, you know, but he was very, you know, subtle. And I liked that, like at the end, and I kind of sensed, because the one thing that they showed at the end, you know, 1 year later, and you talked about the nurse, and then what happened to her, like I'm thinking, okay, I was thinking there might have been some scenes cut, because that kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah. And but I mean,
and that's why the producers cut them, by the way, because they felt we tipped our hat too much. And I'm like, we're not making Citizen Kane here.
No.
So we could have tipped our hat a little bit, but I lost the battle. I lost the battle, won the war, as they say. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you set it up, obviously, and then, you know, so the viewers are seeing the payoff without seeing the setup.
Right.
Which, you know, unfortunately, but I mean, it worked.
But for all those women out there, it still gets the women every time, you know. Yeah.
And it worked. And so the other thing, in the opening credits, one of the things I noticed was, before you saw any names, you saw the talking tree. And I'm like,
oh yeah, you watched the screener. That's right.
Yeah. So was that the original title?
That was the original title, and then the distribution company hated it.
Okay.
And so they literally gave us less than a day to come up. They're like, look, we need a new title so we can put it into the system, blah blah blah, and then you guys need to get the artwork made for iTunes and blah blah. So we had a scramble meeting. We had 6 titles, and that was the best out of the 6th that we came up with, but not awesome. But it still works. And you know what's really funny? It's on PureFlix now, as well as Amazon. Shameless plug. But PureFlix gave a category called Hope for the Holidays, where they put every Christmas movie that has dealing with hope. They gave our movie its own category, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That is cool.
Yeah.
So, so I was going to ask you that, and I mean, usually we'll do it at the end, and, you know, we're much closer to the end than I'd want to be right now, actually. Yeah. But so the movie, you said, can be found on Amazon, and what else?
Found on Amazon. It can be found on PureFlix, and by the way, it just won Best Picture for the Red Letter Awards in Los Angeles. Oh, that's George Stoltz's award. Sorry. That's George. Awesome. So George won Best Actor. There's 2 more of these I have. George won Best Actor. Robert won Best Supporting. And if I'm in my pajamas, I'm not going to get up. But if I were to reach over there, it won Best Picture. And then last Saturday, it got nominated for Best Picture at ICVM, which is the biggest faith-based film festival in the world that has their award ceremony in Nashville in March. And so for the film to be nominated for Best Picture and win, and now be nominated again, I think it just goes to show that, like you said, this movie is kind of authentic. It's not your typical faith-based film, and it was done with excellence. And so I'm super proud of it.
Oh, you should be. And yeah, that is a good way to put it, because I mean, if you've seen, you know, like you've seen Left Behind, and there's the one that I can never remember, but about the firefighters. We saw that at our Fireproof. Yeah. I mean, those are really good movies. And it's similar in the sense that they have cast, people you recognize. Yeah. But this, you know what I compared this to, and I was explaining it to my wife, and it reminded me of a TV show where you have like kind of lawyers, or, you know, like cops or something, and they're trying to, you know, solve something or whatever. Yeah. And it may be like 2 episodes of that back to back. But in terms of like the quality, the writing, the acting, like all of that, like it's not, you know, sometimes when you hear faith-based movie, you're almost grading it on a curve.
Yeah,
and
true. That's true.
And for this, I think this holds up.
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. That was my desire going in. I want to be the kind of filmmaker that makes films that people who like movies want to go see. I don't want to make films that the church only watches, or that the non-church only watches. I want to make films that movie lovers like. And so this film felt very authentic from the time I first opened the script to the time we finished editing it, and it's resonating with people, and that's all I could ever hope for.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
it came out in 2020, I assume holiday
Yes.
season, so like a year
Yep.
ago, and
Yep.
it's done all right.
It's done good. I mean, the reviews have been incredible on IMDb,
Okay.
on Amazon, and on PureFlix. People are loving it. You know, I wish we had it in theaters, but you know, COVID kind of put a damper on that for us. But at the end of the day, it's not about being in theaters. It's about, was your film, were the reactions to your film positive? And they were overwhelmingly positive. And so I'm lucky because I feel like every Christmas now for the rest of my life, I'll get to do little interviews like this about the film and just kind of talk about, because you know, Christmas films are timeless, and so I feel fortunate that way.
And this, I mean, it is a Christmas film, but it's not like, I mean,
it's not a Christmas is a character. I say it's not
exactly.
A Christmas film.
I was trying to figure out, almost like in Home Alone, you know,
or
like
Die Hard.
Yeah, Die Hard, where it's happening at Christmas.
Yes, exactly.
And the fact that it's Christmas is very important, obviously, to the movie. I mean, we said, you know, it's called The Talking Tree, and it's a Christmas tree. So, you know, that's not really a spoiler. That's just a part of the movie. And a very cool part of the movie, I'll say.
Thanks.
So I mean, like I say, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Obviously you're you know, it was your first film, and you say first with hopefully there'll be more.
Well, there's a second film. It's on PureFlix as well, and that one's called My Brother's Crossing. Yeah, so I did a second film right after that called My Brother's Crossing.
Okay.
That one actually went to theaters last year by the grace of God, and you could watch that one, and we could talk about that one sometime if you want.
I'll check that out. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll just get on and talk about other things, like, you know, like your favorite movies, music, whatever. That's
Star Wars, baby.
The goal of this show is, I see a bunch of Star Wars stuff, and actually the guy that I'm gonna have on in 4 days, who I actually spoke with yesterday and recorded already, huge Star Wars fan. So nice. He'll be watching this for sure, and he'll mark out over the stuff in your background. I don't know if you get that term, but mark. I
got it.
Okay, it's like geek out, you know. So well, definitely, I'll definitely invite you back on, hopefully, and hopefully we'll remain friends. So so the other movie is called what was it? My
Brother's Crossing.
My Brother's Crossing. Okay, I will definitely check that out. Where can I find that?
That is also on PureFlix.
Oh, PureFlix. Okay, so I've not heard of PureFlix. So is this like
so PureFlix is like the Christian. It's like a Christian Netflix. You know,
okay, so we actually have a subscription to that through our church.
There you go. I also think you can buy the film on Amazon Prime. Like, you can't rent it, but you can buy it. So if you have Amazon Prime, I know you're in Canada. I don't know how the Canada stuff works.
I do. Okay, is Hope for the Holidays, is that, do you have to rent it, or can you
You can rent it on Amazon, and you can watch it on PureFlix with just a subscription.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think our church gives us the free, and I for whatever reason, I mean, I got so many apps. But as soon as you mentioned through the church, I remember it clicked. And so I'm sure that's a very common thing. And you know, we give faithfully, so they give back sometimes.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't got nothing else. There's one thing I want to talk to you about off there, but but again, itself, because you'd mentioned, you know, do you got anything going on currently that you care to discuss, or maybe the next time I have you
next time for sure? Yeah, I absolutely do, but we'll talk about it next time. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I guess that'll just about do it. We're almost at our 20-minute mark. So thanks for coming on, Ricky. I really enjoyed this, and I hope people check out the movie. Thank you. And again, so Hope for the Holidays on Amazon and on PureFlix. And if you don't have a subscription, get one, because there's lots of cool stuff on there. Yeah. So for Ricky, I'm Grampa Dez, and this has been Cup of Joe with Grampa Dez.